Hi everybody, what's going on? I'm DJ Sixsmith. Welcome to Sit Down. Special guest in the building, Harper.
Hey.
How are you, man?
Hey, Jay. Good to see you.
Good to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
Things are pretty busy for you these days, running around all over the place.
Yeah, it's good. You know, on hiatus from the Good Doctor, which is it's a good time to fill things in and do a lot of other things when I have that window. So this is it's a great and exciting time.
That's awesome. And one of the things I like about your story is that it seems like you've done a bunch of different things in your life, between the financial stuff you're doing now, acting career, law school. Where did all these different interests come from for you?
Well, you know, I think one of the worst quotes that you ever hear people recite is don't be a jack of all trades and a master of none. I mean, I think that negates the idea that we as humans, you know, don't have the capacity to be masters of many things. I think that most people I know are interested in a number of things. It's
Absolutely.
not just one thing. And so many people are like, you got to do this, or if you only do this. And no, I mean, you know, I'm all about following my heart. One of my favorite words in the English language is the word courage, which the etymology, the root of that word is coeur. If you speak French, you know that means heart. So where does your heart go? You know, and people say, well, how does financial literacy come up and working with Experian come up? It comes up because I'm passionate about empowerment and realizing that money and money tools are one of the most important ways for empowerment. And to me, people are like, well, how does that connect with being an actor? It's like, it doesn't connect with being an actor, it just connects with being a human.
Absolutely.
You know?
You need to have that knowledge in everyday life.
Exactly.
And you know, it's interesting because whether you're in high school or in college, like we tell people to focus on one thing and then they don't learn about other things. And it's interesting with financial literacy, like there's not enough education about how to balance a checkbook, what your credit score is, and you're not learning that until you're in a really rough spot. So when did that become something where you were like, I got to get into this thing?
Well, number one, to your point, we teach math from 1st to 12th grade, but we don't teach money.
Yeah.
And you know, I believe that knowing your relationship to money and thinking about money as a tool is more important than knowing how to do long division or algebra, trigonometry, that kind of thing. Although that's a good skill to learn to get your mind right, but at the same time, your relationship to money will impact your life much more over the course of your life. And particularly if we were able to start young, we could start young people saving earlier, which obviously there's, from my book, The Wealth Cure, the number one quote that people pull out is where I wrote, you can't be free if the cost of being you is too high. And a lot of times young people get hit with all of this trouble. You know, you get hit with these high interest credit cards and they get stuck in debt. They end up with a lot of student loan debt and all these things. Before they've even started, they're in debt and they're having, you know, credit issues. And so we could actually help fix that if we started early enough.
Definitely.
And so I realized that with my foundation, because a lot of the young people, I would just say, hey, what are your goals and dreams? They would say, well, I want to study this, but I can't afford it. Or I want to do this, or I want to try this, or I want to start this business, or I want to try this, but I don't have the money. And you start to realize, okay, well, if we can fix how you view and use money, you know, I want them to think of money as a tool of empowerment, right? And it's just like, and the same thing with a credit score. Not be afraid of the credit and score, but say, hey, it's just like a hammer, right? You can use it to build something, you can also use it to tear things down, and so it can work. You know, the analogy I often use is if you use a tool the right way, for instance, a hammer to pound a nail, it's very effective, but if you use a hammer to clean floors,
it's not going to work out so well.
Well, you're actually going to do more damage than good.
Right.
Same thing with credit, right? You can actually improve the quality of your life by really grappling and working with your credit score, and that's why this whole Experian Boost thing is great. And the reason why I wanted to partner with them, because it allows individuals to start to take their own control, load in their own information, create a positive payment history, right? Rather than just having, you know, my credit scores is put upon me. No. I'm going to actually interact with my credit score. I'm going to improve it if it's not where it needs to be, and if it's already great, I'm going to make it a little better.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So you're obviously impacting people today with this knowledge. Who are some people that impacted you in the financial world?
Oh, man, you know, my grandparents. My grandfather, Harold Hill, who I'm named after, he was a pharmacist in a very small town in Seneca, South Carolina, and during Jim Crow segregation, he was the only African-American pharmacist where black folks could go to get their prescription.
Wow.
And he would trade, you know, people would come in that they couldn't afford their prescription, you know, chickens and potatoes and things like that for their prescription medicine. And he was all about community empowerment as a small business owner in this very small town. And then my grandfather, my father's side, he was grandfather on my mother's side. My grandfather on my father's side was also, he was a physician in a small town in Iowa. So two grandfathers who were small town, but all into service. And that comes naturally, but they taught me about responsibility, community responsibility, and about how to use money. You earn it, you try to keep it and save it, and then use it to try to make your family's life better, to try to make your community better, etc. I'm so blessed to have had ancestors that were hardworking, but also showed me the way.
That's an amazing foundation to have. So you mentioned your family. When you first started doing your acting thing, what were the initial impressions from the fam?
I was actually really lucky because they never projected their fears onto me. I've learned subsequently that quietly or behind the scenes, they were like,
what's he doing?
What's he doing? He has 2 graduates from Harvard, but he's doing a job that you don't even need a high school diploma to do. But they always had said to me and reinforced me, there's nothing you can't do. There's nothing you can't achieve. They may have regretted saying that. But at the end of the day, that's my whole point about education when I'm working with young people, is that we speak about education, we tend to speak about it the wrong way. We tell them, study this so you can do this, rather than saying just study so you increase your optionality.
Just study in general. Yeah.
Just learn, become a more learned human, right? So you have more options, and then choose what you want to do, what you're passionate about. And if you don't like it, then change. You're not. You want more optionality. Options are really valuable.
Definitely, and they're hard to come by.
They're hard to come by.
It's not an easy thing.
Right, and that's why money's important, because money in a solid financial foundation, it doesn't buy you happiness, it doesn't buy you success, it doesn't buy you health, it doesn't buy you any of the real big things that are important, but it does buy you options. And there's so many people that are stuck, living under debt, stuck with even the golden handcuffs. They're earning a good living, but they've put so much spending, buying a car to fill other holes, right? They want to impress people that they don't even like.
You can't live like that. You're going right down into the hole.
Exactly. You run up a lot of credit card debt, and then it's hard to get out from under it. You're just paying your minimums every month, and all of those things. That's a regular story. And then people feel caught, right? They feel stuck. Maybe they have an intuition to do a new job, but they can't actually afford to leave the job they're in because they're stuck. And so I would like to, I want people to ultimately be happy, live their best life, and also deal with this issue of the widening wealth gap. We have to, as a country,
no question about it,
deal with that.
Yeah.
And it's one of the most serious issues that we're seeing. Historically, I believe what's made our country great is the idea that expanded middle class, expanded opportunity. We're seeing that change now, and in a way that's not positive. So all of us, have to take steps to make sure that we have more fair and equitable access to credit, more fair and equitable access to starting businesses, and all of the things that actually are like the heartbeat or the engine of this country. And
it starts with the knowledge at a young age, and people like you just pounded that out there. So that's a really cool thing that you're doing that. And even like when you were back at Brown or Harvard, thinking about those times in your life, what were some challenges that you had, and even just like building out this acting career, what were you thinking about at that time, and what were the challenges you were facing?
Obviously, when you're coming out of school, the time, in my opinion, to take the most risk is when you're coming out of school, because you've learned to live very lean. Most students live really lean.
Absolutely.
I lived super lean.
How lean are we talking?
Well, we're talking ramen noodles for 38 cents. We're talking, mac and cheese.
Yeah, that's how you get by.
You really, you live super lean. So keeping that lifestyle, coming out of school and making choices where you're not just chasing a paycheck. You chase what you want, what you believe. It's time to triple down. The other point is, I'm doing a commencement address tomorrow at Temple.
Temple, yeah.
And one thing I'm going to talk to them about is that this is the first generation that doesn't have to think the way every previous generation thought. And what I mean by that is, barring some horrible pandemic, their life expectancy is going to, most of the people I'll talk to tomorrow who are graduating, they're 30 years old or younger. They're probably going to live another 100 years. and they don't have to think about their life as choosing one thing. They could do 3 different 25-year careers that are completely different, and then have another 25 years to either learn about the next career or hang out, right? So they need to think about their life much more expansively than what previous human generations have thought, where it's been, a limited, it's been, our life expectancies have been rising like this, but what's starting to happen now is it's going like that. So you're seeing an exponential rise in life expectancy, which should change the mindset and risk profile of how someone approaches living their life. Double down on taking max risk that first 50 years. Right? This is the time, that first 50, to really double down and do whatever and think bigger and take more risk and really go for it. And then if you feel like you got to take a step back and take a little less risk and you want to live a little more conservatively, do that.
Yeah, I mean, you've taken some risks in your acting career. I mean, maybe some other things weren't a risk.
Are you saying some of the jobs I took were risky? I don't know. Like, oh, man, I wouldn't have done that. That was risky.
But how about like He Got Game? That's one you're asked about a bunch. But
one of my favorite movies. I love shooting that. It was the second time I worked with Spike Lee.
Right, you'd done the previous film
with him. On Get on the Bus with him. And that was so much fun. But it was also a little bit of heartbreak.
Why is that?
Yeah, because there were all these scenes that I shot.
That didn't make the cut?
They got cut out. And I was, there's one scene in particular, it was one of my favorite scenes I've ever shot in my career that I've actually never seen.
Oh, wow.
It's Ray Allen and I walking on a beach, and my character does this long monologue to say, I've been living in your shadow, and it's horrible, and you've ruined my life.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We got to bring this out.
That
would have added some key context to the movie.
Yeah. It was one of those where I guess the choice, in at least what I was told, was that the studio wanted to keep all of the scenes with Denzel and Mila in the hotel. And those were just, long.
Right, they were. And listen, they were fine, but it would have been cool to see that scene.
So they had to make, a decision. So but that's part of life, right?
Yeah.
So you do things that you love, and then you have to give it away. You don't know. You don't have control.
You don't control it, exactly.
You don't control it.
Yeah, you don't have the final cut.
But what you do have control over is the moment when you're in it. And that's another thing I love about theater, doing a live show. I did one last summer here in New York at the Signature Theater, Our Lady of 121st Street. They can't edit you out of a stage play. So every time you go on stage, you
get the immediate response from people.
You get the final cut.
Definitely. And even thinking about some of your other shows, like you had the long run on CSI New York.
Yes.
I loved Limitless. Like I wish that went on a little longer. What do you think went down with that?
I still don't understand.
I thought it was a really good show.
It was doing well.
Yeah.
And it was a funny show. It was a little different and quirky. You have to ask the CBS execs.
The guys here.
The people who were in the boardroom making that decision. I don't know if it had to do with Bradley Cooper, and because he was executive producer of the show.
Right.
I have no idea, because all of us were really surprised when that show didn't get picked up. But it just goes to show you, there's an old saying I have, sometimes rejection is God's protection, because that show got canceled, which I was sad about and surprised, but then I ended up on a show, The Good Doctor, which is, one of the best shows on television, now. And I'm so proud to be on the show because it has such redeeming, great values and all of that. And I think, to add insult to injury, since it's like the #1 or #2 drama on television now.
Yeah.
CBS passed on it.
Interesting how that works. Come on, guys.
They canceled Limitless, and they passed on The Good Doctor.
What are we doing here?
Yeah, I know. What's going on at CBS? But no, we love CBS. I was on this network for 9 years.
A long time. Yeah.
And then again on Limitless, and even before that, I did a show for CBS called City of Angels, which a lot of people don't. This is years ago.
Back.
Stephen Bochco show. With Blair Underwood, Gabrielle Union, Vivica Fox, and Viola Davis. It was her first show.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
It's always cool to look back on casts like that, and see how people have aged with everything.
Yeah, it was a great cast. It was fun, and I played a surgeon, a young surgeon on that show, and Blair Underwood played like the chief of surgery, and now I'm playing.
Yeah,
I've taken kind of the Blair Underwood on the Good Doctor, right? So it's interesting.
That's awesome. So you've obviously crossed paths with a bunch of people during your days. I've heard you talk about Prince in the past, and you know we lost him a couple years ago. So what was that relationship like for you, and what made him such a special guy in your eyes?
Well, Prince and I became friends, and you know he was very eccentric, and you know we had some falling outs too because he's very passionate.
What about?
We fell out over politics.
Really?
Actually.
Oh wow.
Yeah, we fell out over politics, but we got I mean we mended it, but he didn't like the fact that I was so political. He's Jehovah's Witness, and they have issues.
Right. And what time period
politics.
are we talking here?
This is around I mean, we were friends for a long period of time, but this particular had to do with the presidential election.
I gotcha.
You know, and I wanted him to do, so Bruce Springsteen did this big fundraising concert for then Senator Obama.
And that's your guy.
President. That's my guy.
Yeah.
So
you want a Prince to get in the mix?
I said, P.
Come on, man.
Come on, let's do a concert.
Yeah.
And he's like,
he wasn't feeling it.
He was insulted. You know, he was mad. He was like, but fast forward, he played at the White House, you know, during at a party that we had, that President Obama had, and at the White House, and he played there, you know, in the second term. So he came full circle.
Yeah.
Obviously. But you know, he's a special human. You know, I mean, it's a massive loss, and I had no idea that he was living with so much pain. You know, I mean, I didn't know. I always thought, you know, what's interesting is that he was so good at cover, and this goes to show you never know what's going on in somebody's life. You know, when he would walk with his cane and his limp, I thought he was just doing that for cool and swag.
Right.
But he was doing it because he was really in pain, and I had no idea.
Yeah, and some people put out that facade, and especially for somebody like that, you build out that persona, that character. It's very easy to hide behind that.
And he seems invincible.
Right.
You know,
yeah, you don't think anything's ever going to happen to people like that, and then one day it all changes.
Yeah, and you realize, I mean, all those times that he jumped off of a piano and did the splits, it's like an athlete.
It takes a toll on your
It
body.
takes a massive toll on your body.
And he was a smaller guy too.
Yeah.
So no,
it's just
big loss.
It's a massive loss, massive loss, because he was a true artist.
Yeah.
And was going to continue to make beautiful work and elevate people and through music. And so I still really feel that loss. You know, just I think for the world.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned President Obama. Arnie Duncan was here last year, his Secretary of Education. And so I had to ask him about the basketball games with President Obama. I mean, you guys were back at Harvard during law school. So what were the hoops games like back then? And just give me a little snapshot of Barack before he became the guy.
Okay. First of all, you know, when we met, we were the same class, but I had come straight from Brown, and he had, you know, been out in the real world for about 7 years because he was doing community organizing in Chicago. So he came back to school, and you know when someone's in their kind of early 20s and someone else is almost 30, they seem so old.
Yeah,
you know, it's like,
absolutely.
You know,
yeah.
so it's like you know, like, oh, he's coming back to school, loser. I'm way ahead of this guy.
Like, what's this guy doing with his life?
I looked up to him, and not just because he's taller than me. He had a sense of purpose and gravitas, and I think when people come back to school, they come back with. That's why I encourage you know, older students. If you have an intuition that you want to change something or go back to school, do it.
Yeah.
Don't. There's a lot of fear mongering out there around education. It's like, oh, I should be here, or I should have done this. It doesn't matter what age you are. Go back to school.
Yeah.
He did it, and it turned out okay for him.
I think so.
So he had a gravitas, a sense of purpose, and it was great. I remember one time I organized. I was doing a lot of outreach for the black students at Harvard, and I got a letter from an inmate at a maximum security prison saying, hey, how come you Harvard students don't ever interact with us? And I was like, you're right. And I started talking to the guy, and I was like, what do you like to do? He said, I like to play basketball. So a very little known story is I got Barack and a couple other guys, and I organized a basketball game at a prison.
Wow.
So I rented a van, and we all loaded into the van, and we'd go out to this prison and played all their best players against these Harvard law students.
How'd the game go?
It was amazing. The whole prison shut down and lined the court, and we played. They played this game. I really want to do a documentary about this.
You totally should. Yeah.
But it was very interesting because these guys. It's a couple different things. One, none of those guys know that they played basketball against a man that is 44th president of the United States.
They had no idea that was coming.
They had no idea. And they wouldn't remember that it was him. Number two, the way mass incarceration is in this country, black men are 6% of the population, but we're 42% of the inmates.
Right.
You change one or two different decisions in anybody's life on that court, and we, the black Harvard Law students, could change places with those brothers. They could be in law school, or we could be in prison.
Absolutely.
All of us have had interactions with, I've had so many interactions with law enforcement, from false stops and all the different things. And if one goes wrong, I'm in prison or I'm dead.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, you know, but for the grace of God, there go I. So, you know, I know that he was the first sitting president to visit a prison while he was in office. And the first time he ever visited a prison was that time when we played in law school. So there's another full circle piece.
Yeah, it's amazing how that impacts him years later.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
really awesome. Hill, it's been great hanging out with you.
Thank you.
Boost, Experian. Why don't you tell everybody where they can check it out?
Well, I encourage everybody, Experian.com/Boost America. Go on, boost your credit score, start grappling with your credit. Be agnostic. It's a hammer. It's a tool.
And use the hammer the right way,
Use
right?
it the right way. So boost your score, take control, and I'm really proud of the work we're doing with Experian. There's more to come, and this is just the beginning.
And we need people like you because there's not enough knowledge about the financial world.
Yeah.
Everybody can use it.
That's right. Everybody can use it.
All right,
Thanks
awesome.
so much.
Thanks, Hill.
Appreciate it.
All right, everybody. See you next time here on The Sit Down.